A very good evening, Zimbabwe. You are listening to Studio 7 from the Voice of America in Washington on Monday, October 3rd, 2022. This is Live Talk. I am Kip Stube. Tonight on Live Talk, we are talking about the tense political situation in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe's opposition parties, civic society leaders, and observers are concerned about the diminishing democratic space in the country following the conviction of renowned writer and filmmaker Tsitsi Tagarembwa, the arrest of members of the Citizens Coalition for Change, Mtokazi Republic Party, Zimbabwe Transformative Party, and others for allegedly inciting political violence. State security agents at the weekend allegedly patrol-bombed ZANU-PF's activist Saipeth Msengezi's house in Harare. Msengezi is challenging Mnangagwa's leadership of the ruling party and is attempting to block ZANU-PF from holding an elective congress set for some time this year. He was in court today for the first case in which he claims that Mnangagwa was not illegitimately elected in 2017 following the toppling of the late former President Robert Mugabe in a de facto military coup. Namhla zulukandaba sihlolisisa okwenzakala kwele Zimbabwe kulabantu abaningi abavalelwe entilongweni. Bakuqela umnumzana Job Sikhala, umnumzana Godfrey Sithole, labanye bebandla le-Citizens Coalition for Change, akubandla le-Mtokazi Republic Party, lakubamandla atshiyeneyo anjenge-Zimbabwe Transformative Party. Abakhangele ngokwenzakala elizweni bathi kuyethusa okwenzakala okwenziwa nguhulumende kaMnangagwa. Award-winning writer Tsitsi Tagarembwa told Reuters that there are now serious problems in Zimbabwe.
I would say I'm not surprised because we are in a situation where media freedom is not encouraged. So this means that the space for freedom of expression and freedom of the media is shrinking and is increasingly criminalized.
That was award-winning novelist Tsitsi Tagarembwa speaking to Reuters after she was fined $70,000 Zimbabwe and sentenced to a suspended 6-month prison term in Harare for protesting in the streets in Zimbabwe's capital city sometime in 2020. Some Zimbabweans are also not happy about what is happening in the country. These two spoke to Reuters news agency.
It's very clear from this case of Tsitsi that people are denied of their freedom of expression or the freedom of speech because we are not allowed to stand with our positions.
The Constitution of Zimbabwe, it says that we as Zimbabweans, we as the citizens, we have our freedom of expression, but we are not allowed to exercise it.
Citizens Coalition for Change lawmaker Daniel Molokele says the Zimbabwean government should release all political prisoners.
Is totally an outrage. It is a gross miscarriage of justice. It's unconstitutional. It's a political process. It has nothing to do with the legal process. I think both the magistrates and the judges of Zimbabwe are frightened because the last time a judge gave bail to Honorable Sikhala in a different case, she was victimized. And there was another judge in Bulawayo who gave bail to Chief Ndiweni. He was also victimized. So we see that there's a clear undermining of the judiciary in Zimbabwe at the moment. The state is struggling to give the defense lawyers any papers related to the charges, which also confirms our fears that there are actually no charges, there are actually no witnesses. It's just political victimization. So I strongly condemn, in the most possible terms, the continued detention of Honorable Sikhala and Honorable Sithole and other political prisoners. We have other people related to the Nyatsime case, the Nyatsime 14. We also have the Mtokazi Republic party cadres who were also detained a few months ago. There are many other political prisoners in Zimbabwe, some dating back to August 2018 and so on, and the rise that happened at the start of 2019. So we need to speak out. We need to tell the whole world that there is something wrong that is happening in Zimbabwe. The regime is increasingly repressive.
Daniel Molokele is an opposition Zimbabwean parliamentarian. You are speaking to Studio 7. For those that have just joined our show right now, please note that we are streaming live this discussion on our Facebook pages, VOA Shona, VOA Studio 7, and VOA Ndebele. We're also live on YouTube, VOA Zimbabwe. You can also find us on our websites, www.voaindebele.com, www.voashona.com, and www.voazimbabwe.com. You can also send us messages right now on all our social media platforms. Joining us right now on the line or via Skype is our first guest, and that is Mr. Itai Marombeza. He is here in South Carolina. This gentleman belongs to the Citizens Coalition for Change. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, Gibbs. Thank you for hosting.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh yes. So what's your take on what is going on in Zimbabwe? We see that some of your members are being arrested. There's a lot that is happening. So what's your take on that, Mr. Marombeza?
Okay, thank you. It is very, very disappointing. It is disheartening that we are more than 40 years since independence, and we are experiencing the very thing that our comrades went for to fight during the colonial period. The same repressive apparatus that were used by the colonial regime of Ian Smith, which we believed that our erstwhile comrades who fought during that liberation struggle learned something, that they would come back and give us a new Zimbabwe that would give freedoms to each and every citizen. But we find that the current regime has actually supercharged that repressive apparatus, even beyond what the first president of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, did during his term. So it is disappointing. During the Mugabe era, we had cases that included Itai Dzamara, which up to now has not been accounted for. And we thought when this new purported regime under President Emmerson Mnangagwa, everyone thought that there was going to be some departure from that kind of administration, but it seems the veil has been removed, and now we see that the very people who were behind all those atrocities, even during the Mugabe era, are the ones who are now openly bringing that kind of behavior. And Boneni Ngube, who was murdered, those who committed those crimes, those are walking scot-free. The same with the one who was arrested, on account of the death of Blessing Ali. He has been given bail. But alas, those who are fighting for the freedom and trying to advocate for justice for those victims, those are the ones who are now being put behind bars. It is very, very disappointing and unfortunate that the Nyatsime 14, including members of parliament, Job Scala and Godfrey Stolle, are languishing in remand prison more than 100 days in a country that you would expect that the basic tenets of freedom of the rights of citizens should be respected, and at least the courts should be granting bail for those who the police would have arrested. But we are observing that everything has been politicized. The judiciary has been captured. And that's why you find that it is absurd that those who would have been arrested with serious crimes, corruption crimes, are given bail within 24 hours, within 48 hours, whilst those who have cooked up charges are being put merely because they belong to the alternative.
Thank you very much. Yes.
To stop forthwith.
Yes, thank you very much. Can you stay on the line? We're coming back to you. Now we're joined by Miss Elizabeth Valerio of the United Zimbabwe Alliance. Welcome to the program, madam.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. So, can you tell us a bit about what is going on in Zimbabwe? We see that some opposition members are being arrested, and there are so many things going on. So, what's your take on that?
Well, I think, as the previous speaker has said, the situation in Zimbabwe is very unsettling, and certainly I know the citizens are very concerned about the direction we're going as a nation. I think in terms of the political environment for Zimbabwe, our party, the United Zimbabwe Alliance, really wants to emphasize the need for peace as a prerequisite for any free and fair election. We believe that political party leaders, and that is all leaders, whether they are in the current government or if they are in opposition parties, must be the ambassadors of peace. It is beholden upon us as political leaders to really preach peace daily, to make sure that we do not promote violence and hate speech or other actions that would cause the type of tension that we are seeing in our country.
Is it possible? Is it possible, Ms. Valerio, to have people promoting peace when the government is doing the opposite? Is it possible?
Well, at the end of the day, it's not possible to sort of counter the actions of others by sort of mirroring the same. So ultimately, the only thing that we can do as political leaders is be exemplary to the citizenry, because what we don't want is a scenario where our citizens then are playing into the tension that's already being seen emerging across our country. So we want to ensure and emphasize and remind all leaders that it's our responsibility to maintain peace for this country and to make sure that we are tolerant of each other. Please let's remember that in a democratic society, people have the right to choose the political parties that they align with. What is happening is not acceptable. And I would hope that the police will do their job and bring the perpetrators of any form of violence to account. It's their responsibility to do so. But as political leaders, it is important that we are exemplary, that we set the tone for the citizens of this country. We will not go forward as a nation if we are fighting against each other. So at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we remind the political leaders of this country. We know the history of our country. We know the burden that we carry as a nation. We are going towards election, and hopefully that will be our opportunity to move Zimbabwe forward. But we have to do this as a united citizenry. We have to do this knowing that it must not take the form of violence.
Oh, yes. So stay on the line there. Maybe let's go back to Mr. Itai Marombeza. In Shola, Mr. Marombeza, do you believe that people can actually work out a plan to make sure that there is peace as Zimbabwe prepares for general elections? Like, coexisting in a very good way. In Shona, just 1 minute on that.
Right, ndatenda mukoma Gibbs. Munoona dambudziko riri kuitika nderekuti nyaya yekudzvinyirirwa kwekodzero dzevanhu muZimbabwe haisi nyaya itsva yatiri kutaura nezvayo, asi inyaya yatiri kungoti zviri kutoramba zvichiwedzera. Saka ini chandingakurudzire ndechekuti tingataure sekutaura kwaita vabva pauyapo kuti vanhu ngavataure nezvekuti paite runyararo vakuru vemapato ezvematongerwo enyika. Asi chokwadi chiripo ndechekuti kune bato risingateereri, rinozviitira rine masimba ekuita zvarinoda, risingatarise kodzero dzevanhu, nekuda kwekuti iro rinoti ndo riri rine masimba ekutonga naizvozvo rinobata nekumbunyikidza mapato mamwe ehurumende zvakanyanya kumapurisa. Taakuzoona zviri kuramba zvichienderera kumatare ezimhosva. Saka naizvozvo ini chandingakurudzire ndechekuti taakuda kuti vekunze SADC, AU, African Union, United Nations vauye vachimboongororavo kuona kuti mafambisirwo ari kuita zvinhu agadziriswe nekuda.
Yes, sorry, I think he has actually been cut off there. So we are going to call him again and try to get him on board. At the moment, let's take a break and please stay tuned. So we are still with Miss Elizabeth Valerie of the United Zimbabwe Alliance on the phone. So Miss Valerie, looking at what is happening in Zimbabwe, what's the way forward really? Because the political situation appears to be very, very tense.
It is tense indeed. Sorry, the surname is Valerio. And, you know, looking at the situation and what is the way forward, it's really beholden it's an opportunity for us as Zimbabweans to say, let's do something very different. Makore mangani, tichiti ngatishedana one weku SADC, weku African Union. Makore mangani, how many elections have we gone through saying the same thing? It's time now for Zimbabwean citizens to say, let's make it our responsibility to take back our country. My elections are kuya. Gatino register kuno voter and choose a different future for ourselves. We need to make sure as Zimbabwean citizens, we take back this country. Because no matter what my actions are today, okay, we want to stop this and that. It won't change until we change the government. And so I am appealing to every Zimbabwean citizen. Way forward, yatinayo, leokuti tiende tinoregister kuvota. In my elections next year, dochanzi yedu yekuti tichinje hurumende, you know, it change the direction in Kayedu. That is what we have to do. That is the way forward.
Yes, thank you very much, and stay on the line there. So it's time for us to go for our callers. Let's see what people are saying on Facebook. That is Vio Indebele, and we're going to go back to our guest, Miss Elizabeth Valerio. So let's see. We've got Nkanyiso M. Musa, who says, I'm still waiting for your call, Baba Dube. So I think we can call Mr. Nkanyiso M. Musa right now. He's one of the callers waiting for us to call. So he says, please call me. Then Amanda Mendy says, we are all unhappy about what is happening in Zimbabwe. Then Limuke Nkumalo says, ZANU-PF must go. So we're still waiting for Mr. Philip Kaule of ZANU-PF and Mr. Joseph Chuma of ZANU-PF as well. But at the moment, we can go to our callers and hear what they're saying about what is happening in Zimbabwe. They are the stakeholders in all this. So let's hear their views. So there's M. Musa who's waiting. So on VOA, Shona, there are also some people who are sending us a lot of messages saying that, they are not happy about what is going on in Zimbabwe. So let's go back to Ms. Valerio. So tell us a bit about how you think people can improve the current situation. Something that is very practical. What is the best way out of this kind of mess?
I'm going to keep going back to the same thing that I said in terms of, the solution is not to try to take on, in terms of the current situation. We all know that Zimbabwe is not, historically and currently, has not demonstrated itself to be a free and fair environment for political parties. We already know that. So the situation is clearly in the hands of the citizens. And the only practical way to overcome the current situation is for Zimbabweans to organize themselves. This does not need to be protesting in the streets. It does not need to be violent action against each other. What we need to do is become educated, become informed about our rights as citizens. And that right is to choose the government that we have. It's really, I don't mean to oversimplify it, but until we realize that as Zimbabweans, we will continue to be struggling with the same situation. If you look at past elections, everyone knew what was happening. But how many went to the polls and actually voted? If you look at statistically the numbers of people that have shown up at the polls, we clearly are not participating. And so now the situation has got to an even worse level, right? But we are still going to see in 2023 a certain number of citizens sitting and saying, let's see what the outcome is. Well, choose your outcome. That is the practical approach. Become informed, whichever candidate it is that you support. Certainly, we hope it will be UZA, but whichever candidate, whichever parties you wish to support, become actively engaged as citizens. Now is the time.
Thank you very much, and stay on the line. We've got people who are sending us many messages on the VOA Shona page. One of them is John Kumete, who says people need to unite and say enough is enough. And then we've got Philip Murombe, who says ZANU-PF is the troublesome political party in Zimbabwe, and for one reason, that is, and that's the reason why Zimbabwe has got a problem. Then we've got other people as well sending us messages, but there's one in Jenny who says ZANU-PF is the party for life, so let's not criticize without coming out with a plan. So you see, some people are there, they are supporting ZANU-PF, some people are in the opposition, and this should be the scheme of things. But maybe what also bothers a lot of people is when the government turns a blind eye on people's complaints, especially when people are being victimized. Let's go back to the Indebele page and see what people are saying there. So there's Anthony who says, I'm a ZANU-PF supporter, and I think most of you don't realize that we are governing Zimbabwe. So go to the polls and try to vote. We have got the hand right now. Then Kumalo says register to vote. So excuse me. Let's go back to Ms. Valerio. So, okay. So I think we've got a caller here. Hey, caller, kunjani kunapo?
Hello.
Hello, kunjani baba?
Siyaphila baba, tiweli njani?
Ngiyaphila, ngikhuluma lobani?
Ukhuluma lo Nkomo lapho banele lapha ngiseJoburg baba.
Akutsho nibona njani isimo esikhona ngale kwele Zimbabwe?
Hey, isimo baba Dube kwele Zimbabwe ngathi sithanda ukubana sitrike kancane baba Dube, akumanga kahle, bengikhona ngale nje ensukwini ezisanda kwedlula. Akumanga kahle impela, especially kwezo.
Ungasani uqhumekile ucingo lwakho singazi ukuthi songani luginiwe, singazi ukuthi uhambe njani. So I think we've lost that caller right now. So hopefully we are going to get hold of the caller. But blessing, this guy is blessed. Manigini Dube, he says ZANU-PF must fall. So we're still waiting for ZANU-PF activists to join our show. But it seems we've got a very big problem with our lines. So those lines are problematic. So there is one guy, Musa, who says, call me right now. He's waiting for a call. So, and I'm told there's load shedding in most of Johannesburg right now. So let's see what we can do. Let's go back to Ms. Valerio. So now looking at how things are going in Zimbabwe, and we are inching closer, or let me say the country is inching closer to elections. And most people don't want to, especially the youth, they are not registering to vote. and that spells disaster for the opposition. What's the solution there?
Well, I think in terms of the youth and in general, all voters in our country, a lot of people have lost trust. They've been disappointed. They have believed in, maybe opposition parties in the past, and they've believed that things will change in our country. And they've put their faith in leadership, which even if they are successful, oftentimes they are disappointed. Once the politician is put into office, that person now forgets the people who put them in office. I think, it's really important that a political party, as it is, positioning itself for a role in government, needs to engage the citizens even before they are in government, even before they enter government, and demonstrate what it is that they can do for the citizens. And that's what the youth are going to expect. So what we need is a scenario where we have proven that we are worthy of leading this nation. And that is exactly what the United Zimbabwe Alliance is doing. So actively participating with the citizenry, working with the youth to capacitate them to take back their own economic situation in life, creating jobs, creating opportunities. I think for us to really activate the voter base that we need in the youth, it's going to take us really working hand in hand with them even before elections. The youth are not wanting lip service, which is what we see a lot from the current political leadership. We will do this for you when we are in office. No, we need to actually get down on the ground and do the real work of supporting our citizens. So as the United Zimbabwe Alliance, we are building a government which will be the next government of Zimbabwe. So we are already talking about and doing the work of a government. We have a lot of work to do in terms of changing the circumstances within our country. The youth are looking for jobs. The youth are finding themselves dependent on drugs because they want to forget about the problems that they have. But we need to intervene. We need to all intervene as political leaders now. And in that way, start to change and shift the dynamic on the ground.
We can hear you.
Give our young people hope.
We can hear you. Can you hold on there? There's Mr. Musa on the line from South Africa. Baba Musa, kunjani?
Yebo ngiyaphila linjani Dube?
Siyaphila sokule mzuzwana nje emlutshwane. Phosela khona lapho ubona ngazani kwenzakalani kwele Zimbabwe. Abantu ngani bayagijinyiswa.
Into mina ngikhala ngayo ukuthi lizo lakithi lifile Dube ngoba kumanje siyahlupheka sikwamanye amazwe. Siyafisa nathi ukuthi lizo lethu lilunge Dube kube notshintsho.
Lilunga njani abantu bengavoti? Phela abantu kumele bevote emfowethu.
Lafana kunalondoda lo kade ekhuluma lo okade engafuna ukuphuma ku live le live yokuqala ngimuzwa wathi mangabe kungafika amakhumbi lapha la isha abantu bayovota.
Abantu bangavuma yini ukuthi bethwale ngamakhumbi bayivota?
Ngibona utshintsho laseZimbabwe ngoba noma abantu bengaze bevote izilongo usaphethe le party lezanu le.
So singathi la usathembu ezokhetho lezi ubona ngani ukuchitha isikhathi.
Hayi singavota kodwa Dube but utshintsho angiboni ukutshintsha izilongo usaphethe le party lezanu abantu bahlala bekhala njalo.
Phosela ukucina khona lapho ke 10 seconds.
Hayi Dube into kade ngikhala ngayo kakhulu ukuthi lo baba lo mna ngagolongo uyobulala ilizwe wesisinsi waphatha yena ngathi kwaba wesi kakhulu.
Siyabonga kakhulu ke ungadina lokusasa mfowethu. I think sesifika ke emaphethelweni uhlelo lwethu lwalamhlanje. So sizathi ukuthi siqede ke uhlelo lwethu. We've come to the end of our show today. We should thank our guests and listeners. Let's meet again next time. This is Gibbs Dube in Washington, D.C. saying good night, Zimbabwe.